All right, time for a crazy story. Uh, Growing up, one of my best friends, we'll call him D. Uh, he was always in and out of trouble. Long story short, he got kicked out of his place when the day he turned 18, and he moved two doors down or across the street. I moved into my place, and at the time we were doing a lot of drugs, and he was selling a lot of drugs, and so he'd been in and out of jail since he was like 14. So when you've been in jail and you get out, when you're on parole or probation or whatever, you kind of waive your right to search and seizure. So the first day of spring break, senior year of high school, we wake up to two cops in my room. Yeah. And in that room, we happen to have a half gram of cocaine, 35 pills of ecstasy, and like 2 ounces of weed. Enough to do some time for. But we were teenage boys, so the room was a fucking disaster. There was like 30 piles of LP records, like stacked everywhere. And so one of the gram of cocaine was in one of those records, so I knew the cops were going to find that. And there was a beanbag chair in the back of the closet underneath a bunch of shit, and all the weed was in there, so I knew they weren't going to find that. But the ecstasy was in a little bubble tape container um, in the drawer next to my head in the bedside table. So, anyways, the cops walk in, and they're searching around, and they're going through all this stuff, and you can tell they're obviously like getting frustrated because there's so much crap in there. But one of the first things they find is this bag of orange vitamins in a bag of vitamins. They're like right near D's shoes. And so when the cop picks him up and says, "What are these?" And D's like, "Oh, those are vitamins." The cop's holding this bag of orange vitamins, right? And he opens up the jar where the vitamins came from, looked inside, see they match up, puts them back. Okay, it's all good. They're just vitamins. And by this point, I'm like, "Oh yeah, you see that mitt in the closet? I don't use that anymore. Take it home, give it to your kids." I'm freaking out. I know how much drugs is in the room, and I don't want to go to jail. I want to go to college. I'm 18 years old. I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So I'm sitting there in bed still. The cops are all flustered. They're done. They're tired of searching through the room. They start to leave, and one of them says, "Hey, wait, what's in that drawer?" Pointing to the drawer next to my head where all the ecstasy's at. Yeah. So he goes in, he opens the drawer, he pulls out the bubble tape container, unscrews it, pulls out the bag of ecstasy. 35 pills of ecstasy right there in his hand. And I'm frozen. I'm just like, I can barely hear. My heart's pounding so loudly. And the cop's like, "Well, what are these?" And D sees that they're, because the ecstasy going around at the time were these orange pills called Jawbreakers. So D sees they're orange, remembers that the vitamins were orange, and says, "Oh, those are vitamins." The cops say, "Oh, okay," puts them down, back in the drawer, walks out of my room. And that, my friends, is a crazy story.